I've been surfing for over 20 years now. Now that surfing is my job, I've taken a particular interest in the science of learning it, and I'm as obsessed with it as ever. As far as sports go, it's a really tricky one to progress because the changing nature of the ocean and waves makes repetition a little hard to come by. But there are some surefire ways to guarantee and fast track your surfing progress, and today I want to share 5 of them with you because, man, I wish I knew about them when I started. And make sure you stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to teach you guys a really helpful training routine that's going to totally transform your surfing. This video is brought to you by my online surfing university, The Surfer's Roadmap. Whether it's a structured Surfscape program, choosing the right surfboard, or progressing from beginner to intermediate, we've got you covered with top quality online courses. Check it out via the link in the description below. Number 1, the fact that you can progress at any age. I think there's a general conception that as you get older, attaining skills is harder. But in surfing, I found that this is not quite the case. You can progress just as fast in your mid-20s, mid-30s, mid-40s with the right approach. And that is probably key, the right approach. There are 3 main factors to get this right. And number 1 is mindset. Science shows pretty clearly that if you have the belief that you can learn something, then it's going to have a major impact on whether you actually do. Obviously, if you have the confidence and the belief that you can actually attain a certain level of surfing, this means that it becomes more possible for you to do so. And number 2, frequency of practice. I'm sorry, but you probably need to start surfing more than once a week if you want to progress with any sort of pace. 3 is obviously quality of guidance and input into your surfing, which is literally the main reason I created the Surfer's Roadmap. Surfers have suffered from a lack of clarity when it comes to a step-by-step approach to improving their surfing. So if you believe you can improve, if you commit to surfing a lot, or at least as much as you can, more than you probably think you need to, and you actually gain a clear picture of what it is exactly you're trying to achieve with your surfing, that is, you get good guidance and steps on how to actually achieve those tangible things, then progression will come at any age. Number 2, that overcoming a fear of waves actually requires a step-by-step approach. Many surfers, when they start, have a fear of a certain size of wave. Now, I'm here to tell you that every surfer has a fear of a certain size of wave. It's just all relative to their experience. The big mistake here is presuming that there's something wrong with you for fearing that wave, and maybe assuming that every other surfer, the surfers that you aspire to be like, don't have a fear of waves, and that's simply not true. Everybody, no matter who you're looking at, has a fear of a certain type of wave, and the main factor here is their experience, their exposure. I found that by gradually exposing yourself to waves slightly out of your comfort zone is the best way to deaden and desensitize yourself to those types of waves. And before you know it, it actually happens without you really noticing. The waves that you used to be scared of, all of a sudden are no longer scary to you. I grew up in Adelaide, which literally has no surf. It took me almost into my 20s before I could even fathom surfing a wave over 4 foot. And yet now it's become a lot more possible, and I actually start to chase those waves and really enjoy it. And the next level up that scares me is obviously a lot bigger. The way I was able to do that was through gradual exposure over a number of years to waves slightly outside my comfort zone. Now, obviously we don't want to push you too much because that's going to cause anxiety. If we look at the science of flow state, we want to slightly challenge you, and then that's going to eventually bring up your skill level to be able to match that of the more intense waves. The fear itself never actually goes away. It just takes a bigger wave to instill it in you now. Essentially, our yardstick, our measuring device, has changed. quick tip: if being out in challenging surf with a surfboard tied to you via a leg rope is a challenging and scary idea for you, which it is for a lot of people, then I recommend going out and actually swimming amongst the lineup to start to develop that confidence and to settle you in, take you out of your head a little bit. Obviously you need to be a good swimmer though. Number 3 is that Surfscape training can pretty much perfect your on-wave technique, especially if you're an intermediate surfer. As I mentioned at the start of this video, in surfing, repetition is hard to come by, and that's why I've used surf skates consistently for myself and my clients to great success over the years, because you can get that repetition on land in a safe, controlled environment. I wish that I knew this when I was younger, because I could have upped my game so much quicker, but instead it just took me a really long time. The reason I say this works especially well for intermediates is because a certain level of kinesthetic awareness of what a wave feels like is a really good way to inform your on-land surf skate training and help you visualize how the on-land techniques correspond to the on-wave techniques. The curriculum that I developed for the Ultimate Surfscape program is built around those fundamental movements of surfing. So even if you are a beginner, you can use that to begin to generate that kinesthetic awareness. It's not going to be exactly the same, because obviously waves move, but you can start to inform your on-wave surfing with the training that you do on land on the surf skates as well. At that point, we have this bi-directional relationship between what you're doing out in the water on a wave and what you're doing on land. And we see this crossover, this integration of skills and skill development that can really fast track your surfing progress. Really important tip: when you are implementing surf skate training, make sure you are visualizing actively a wave when you are doing it. Now I'm going to give you a really helpful exercise at the end of this video as well. Number 4, the right surfboard. Now if you're a grommet and you weigh 30 kilos, whatever, you can pretty much get away with, you know, the wrong surfboard for years. But if you're late teens, early 20s and beyond, all the way through to 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, then getting the right surfboard is going to take the pressure off. It's going to remove the bottleneck that can exist through having a suboptimal shape under your chest and under your feet. When I was around 18, I started buying these fishier sort of small wave surfboards, because they had instant up and go, instant speed, which can be really helpful in certain types of conditions, but they also have distinct limitations, which I think held me back over the years. Essentially, those boards put a ceiling on the type of waves that I could surf and the size of waves that I could surf, and how critical of a maneuver that I could perform on those waves. Far too many people these days are on tiny surfboards, boards that are way too small for them, and they're prematurely running out of energy in the surf. They're missing waves, and then when they're on the wave, they tend to run out of speed. And I think overall, in general, surfers are chronically under-volumed with their surfboards. This is because in the past we've equated more volume with less responsiveness, and I think nowadays that's not always a neat sort of relationship. I'm actually working on something here, a signature shape, a solution to the problem that I see at least 75% of surfers everywhere in the world dealing with. It's not quite ready yet, but when it is, I'm going to obviously share it with you here. In the meantime though, try experimenting with a bigger surfboard, perhaps a performance mid-length or something in that category. See how it improves your paddling, your wave catching abilities, and the big critical question is, does it actually hold you back at all whilst you're on the wave surfing? And most of the time I would say no. So give it a crack and let me know what you think. And finally, I wish I knew that almost everything that I wanted to achieve in my surfing, from getting barrel to doing big airs and doing critical maneuvers, could be distilled down to the development of 2 fundamental skills: the bottom turn and the top turn. Both on the forehand and the backhand, these fundamental skills provide a framework for most of surfing's expression, and that's why they are really the main focus points, the basis of the curriculums that we've built in the Surfer's Roadmap. These movements, when executed properly and optimally, are the perfect combination of compression and extension and rotation, which is essentially what surfing is. And they can foster that kinesthetic understanding of almost every other maneuver in surfing. Let's work on those things now together on the Smooth Star. We're going to set up 2 sections on this concrete wave here. The first section is a top turn section marked with the 3 cones. Our second section immediately after is a re-entry section, marked here by the 2 cones. Initially approach this as a forehand wave and really focus on the timing of the ease into compression, which starts here at the first cone. And then the more explosive extension, which happens as you pass the second cone. Perform the top turn with good technique and really focus on extending the back leg and transitioning straight into your next bottom turn and re-entry maneuver. Practicing this exercise, filming yourself and then comparing it to good surfers is a fantastic way to achieve repetition and to more fully understand the subtle dynamics of power expression in surfing. So there you have it. Those are the 5 things that I wish that I had in my arsenal when I was growing up trying to be a professional surfer. Guys, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button. Let me know in the comments which tip stood out most to you and resonated most with you. Remember that I've helped thousands, almost tens of thousands of students now reach their surfing goals via the surfersroadmap.com and our retreats in person. So make sure you check that out via the link in the description below. You can also join me and the Surfers Roadmap on Instagram at Kale's Broccoli at the Surfers Roadmap. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much for tuning in.